Forget it. No countdown. We're doing it live. I hit the button.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm all over the place. But I want to say hello to everyone who has joined us. If you're waiting for a smooth countdown, we don't have one because I messed up. But I'm your host today, Kareem Anderson, and I'm joined by.
David Allen. I am freshly soaked and wind blown from Tropical Storm Debbie. But the good news is I was able to take a shower here, so life is better.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. So we are glad that you survived with minimal, hopefully, damage done to any residents or lifestyle changes you had upcoming. You were able to join us in this pod. We have had a busy week in Microsoft world, more specifically in the world around Microsoft. Microsoft itself as a company had few headlines really this week, but there's a lot of tech that they are involved in that has coincided with the company's headlines. And we're going to walk you through those real quick, just to give you kind of a view of what we'll be talking about. Right out of the gate, we're talking about Chromecast and the death of Chromecast. Google has offed another product. Fortunately, instead, though, they have a replacement ready. So we're going to talk about that replacement. We're talking about Google actually being Google search being considered a monopoly officially. We've all been saying it for some time under breath, but the Department of Justice has come out and said it is officially one, and we'll get into the details of that. We have Adobe Premiere being released on ARM with ARM support, which is now going to beef up a lot of those Copilot Plus PCs that were running on Snapdragon devices, make them somewhat more competitive with the 2 and 3 Apple Macs. We'll be talking about the Surface Pro X getting support, or an older device is getting support for the Pro Keyboard Flex. We're going to be also talking about Delta Airlines and Microsoft and CrowdStrike going back and forth, pointing fingers at each other in the latest round of who did it and why it happened with the CrowdStrike failure that happened about 2 weeks ago. We're also talking about Microsoft beefing up its own content creation tool with Clipchamp. They're adding 2 new cool features. We'll walk you through those. Lastly, we'll be talking about Microsoft's plans to potentially have or come back to the mixed reality headset world, even though they left it pretty hard last year when they fired everybody and left the skeleton crew to work with the military project. Looks like they might have second thoughts, or maybe they just got FOMO when they saw some nice positive headlines for Apple Vision Pro. And if we have time, we may squeak in the Elon suing, or Elon, X, formerly known as Twitter, suing GARM, and we'll tell you what GARM is and what that's all about if we have time. With that all being said, let's see if we can squeeze all that in. Start off with our first story, please, David.
Well, first I've got Google is ending the Chromecast, but don't worry, for you folks like myself that like Google TV, they're not exiting the streaming market. In fact, they have come up with a new device called the Google TV Streamer. And for those that are interested, looks like they might be going the Apple route, if you will. Um, for now, the Google TV Streamer will be available in September. For those that are still, let me go ahead and clear this up. For those that are still on the Chromecast and the Chromecast TVs, the Chromecast 4K version support will be September 2025, so you've got roughly a year. And for the HD version, they are still supporting that through September 2027. So if you've still got those devices, you don't have to run right out. That was a concern for me right off the get go because I just purchased 2 4K Chromecast units. But let me give you a little background on the new Google TV Streamer. It's a nice all in one device with 4K HDR support, Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos on board, has a better CPU, 4 gigs of RAM, and it allows you to, guess what, incorporate AI. AI will be built into this device. You can also use it as a Matter Hub for those that are interested in joining the ecosystem there. You can Also, set your Google Photos to be like a screensaver when you're away. That's a neat little feature for those that are interested. You can still stream to the device with your phone, so that's something to keep in mind. It is also somewhat of a smart home hub. If you've got the Google Nest cameras, the locks, etc., you can control those devices with the new Google Streamer. The new device is going to run you $99, so it's double. Let's call it what it is. It's double the price of the older version. And at first, I read that, but I'm not sure people are going to go for that. But kind of feels like they're going the Apple way. That center device sits in your living room, all in one. That kind of takes control of your living environment. So I'm going to pick one of these up when it comes out. Maybe we can do a review on it for you. Maybe get a little video review for you folks that are interested. I'm interested to see what this device is about. I want to see a device that can do a little bit more than the Chromecast. So I'm hoping this is the answer to that.
Yeah, I had some mixed feelings with my initial knee-jerk response, which I have one for everything because, hey, I'm human. I was like, this is a bad idea. They made their bones doing Chromecast. Uh, you know, fast forward a couple hours and long discussion and conversation with yourself, I realized that this is kind of where the world of streaming is going. Only in part because they've successfully partnered with everybody when it comes to software and hardware. So a lot of what's going to be built into TVs already does what a Chromecast does. Chromecast became less portable because they also started needing power outlets. So for those of us who were taking our families on trips, Chromecast in the back of a TV to kind of get that same in-home experience, you now had to worry about where can you plug the power outlet to the Chromecast to power the thing behind the TV. And so maybe you weren't taking them as often to places. You were just relying on whatever the TV at the whatever place you're at, and it's built-in apps. You probably sign into your accounts via Google anyway. And as we learned from Amazon, these sticks are really just windows into services, and they were probably costing Google more than they were making. At this point now, they're saying if you're going to be someone who is more dedicated to an in-home experience, we're going to give you a little bit more to play with. They also mentioned upgrading the controller, which is kind of great. They did a couple key things, even though the controller is still a pill-shaped little device. They added a texture back to it, so I know mine's constantly slips off of everything out of
Yep.
my hand, off my ottoman, off of the coffee table. With this texture back, it will do less of that. They've also put the buttons for the volume on the top of the controller. I know, trying to explain to your parents how the buttons worked on the side or why they were there was probably conversation too long for most of us. Now they can just see the up and down volume buttons right there on the top of the device. They've also added an action button. Essentially, you can program it to anything. So if there's a specific app that isn't related to YouTube or Netflix, I believe are the two custom ones that come on there, you can trigger it for something else. Maybe Peacock is your second favorite, or Prime, or maybe you wanted to, like you said, instantly go to your screensaver of shared photos and family stuff like that. You just push the button, it does that now. They also mentioned that they're going to be adding, as far as the AI is concerned, we're going to be getting more of the Amazon Prime kind of things where you get summarizations of TV shows and movies and characters and descriptions based on Gemini's pool and whatever available information they might be scraping from IMDb and stuff like that. So I'm all for it. $100 is still less expensive than renting your set-top box from a cable company if you're cutting the cord at 10 to 12 bucks a month. You're looking at 120 bucks, 140 bucks for that device that you don't even own. So good on you, Google. Let's hope it manifests and does what you think it's going to do.
One thing I will
Yeah.
add to this. You brought up a good point. I did read that when I was covering this, the existing devices in your Google Nest, like your the what do you call them? The Google Nest Hub. Thank you.
Mhm.
The Google Nest Hubs will be getting the AI infusion later. So if you've got those, you can kind of watch out for that update. I just bought a couple of those for that purpose. I don't have them yet, so we'll see how this plays out.
True. We're going to move on to our next thing. We gave one good up for Google. Now we're going to give lots of bads and thumbs down for Google, as they have been found to essentially be a monopoly. Kind of what we all thought was going on. Earlier this week, a U.S. federal judge released their ruling on the Google antitrust case in regards to search specifically. I know there are things about advertising that we want to get into as far as that, but in an internal memo, the U.S. Department of Justice found them guilty of violating Section 2 of the Sherman Act, which now classifies the company's search business as an illegal monopoly. The federal judge, Mehta, MEHTA, not, he wasn't bought off by Facebook or anything, ruled that Google illegally monopolized online searching. While not agreeing with every DOJ charge that was brought forth, he did at least issue the following statement saying, quote unquote, after carefully considered and weighing the witnesses' testimony and evidence, the court reaches the following conclusion: Google is a monopolistic, and it has acted as one to maintain its monopoly. It's a 286 page ruling. It's pretty long. When I did my writing of it, I read through it, but I only took the parts that were relevant, which are basically saying that Google's partnerships, the way that it paid Apple, the deals that it made to kind of hinder any other competitive search operations on any other platforms, is basically what the Department of Justice took issue with. Like I said, it was specifically the $26 billion payout to Apple that Meta kind of references several times throughout his ruling, as pointing to how it leveraged its monopoly. Right now, we are in the rulings phase. We're going to get into the punitive damages phase following this. Google has already appealed, said they're going to appeal this, and the Department of Justice wants to also, if it gets appealed, see if we can kind of push those other charges that Meta didn't agree on. That's going forward. There was one point in Meta's report or his write-up where he also explains that he took a line from Eddie Q, who is Apple's senior vice president, explaining that, quote, "There's no price that Microsoft could ever offer to preload Bing." That admission may have solidified his perception of the exclusivity that Google has. If it's a free market, you basically, in a capitalist society, go for the highest bidder. You want to make your investors as much money as possible. It's basically Apple's due diligence to say, hey, if Microsoft is offering us more money and they have a search product and I can return investors this amount of money, we kind of have to do that. And he's saying that, because of the relationship that Google has, because of the way it's monopolized search, there's nothing that Microsoft could have done. And if Microsoft is considered the number 2 in search, and it's sitting at 6% or whatnot, and they have enough money, they're valued higher than Google at the time, and they still can't get Apple to make a switch or make a change or even consider making a change. That is, in essence, a monopoly. What are your thoughts on this?
Saw it coming. I think we just took a while to get here. I think we have kind of let this go for several years now, and Google does have the monopoly. I mean, they have the monopoly on search, and they, as you mentioned, they're using money to control that monopoly in some way. I mean, it's like Thorat said. I like his phrase. I think it summed it up well. Imagine being Apple this week and waking up, hearing this, and thinking one of your largest clients might not be able to pay you anymore. And what happened at the end of all this? Something will. I don't know that it's I don't think we're going to be brushing this one under the rug and saying, continue. Does this mean that Google and Google Search and other Google assets get broken into separate companies? What does it mean? Something is going to happen with the Google empire here. Google has had the empire for years. Microsoft has fought the good fight with the empire with Bing. And I think, because of Google, we have starved off other possible search and email style alternatives. So what happens here is really what I want, what I don't want to say excited to see. I don't want to, see Google go down necessarily, but I think it's time to break the monopoly up and give some other companies some opportunity. And I think we're going to see a big change in how some of these partnerships are because guess what? We're getting ready to enter the same phase of AI. Who partners with who, works with who, and we've got to make sure that everybody gets a fair shake.
Yeah, another damning indictment was of Meta's was again not the company but the judge was his assessment of the company's practices when it comes to manipulating the pricing structure of Google's text-based ad search platform. Despite Google's argument of dynamic pricing based on quality, Meta points to the company's own Google's own struggles with defining user quality. So when they were saying like, hey, we raise the prices based on how poor quality ad has, but in order to give it the same sort of relevance as a legit website, we'll raise the price. If you're a legit website, you don't have to you won't get to charge as much because you are giving quality information and content. But Google is unable to define that. And so he says that instead of opting to simply, instead of being able to define it, what Google seems to be doing is just opting to simply increase the auction's bid for advertisers as to continue or to continue to play and continue long-term revenues for the company itself. So again, instead of saying like, hey, here's our pricing structure for what we consider a 10, like if it's 1 out of 10 the quality of this website and its ads, instead of saying once you reach 9 or 10 your price goes down to $1 or $2 for an ad, Google just says, oh, we dynamically use an algorithm to kind of figure it out. But it seems like everybody's always paying the highest price no matter what. And that's another thing that Meta kind of pointed to in his ruling. We're going to move on from this topic. I just wanted to say that it's far from over,
Yep.
but it is still historic. This is we haven't really seen this level of regulation since Microsoft. And again, we said that these stories are tangential to Microsoft, so we'll see how they choose to go about it. Microsoft historically was not broken up, but it did take a back seat, take a big hit, and it allowed basically Google to thrive. So we'll see what company may be able to sprout and grow wings thanks to getting from underneath Google's shadow.
You know,
We're,
we've
okay.
had a lot of reorganization. I mean, we're just past halfway. We're in the last quarter of 2024. And, you bring that up. We've had a lot of, I'm going to call it corporate movement in the technology world, whether it be gaming, tech, AI, or whatever. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of job losses. We saw Dell let go, what was it, another 12,000 workers this week, I think.
12,000, yeah.
The rest of this year and Q1 and Q2 of 2025 are going to be interesting. I don't think our landscape is through reorganizing yet. Let me use that term. I just feel like there's some change coming. And I've had this feeling even before I read this story. We've had so many changes here in 2024 with the type of tech we use. We've had AI. We've had, whether we're wondering if AI succeeds. We've had companies in front of regulatory bodies. We've had, this thing here with Google. So I think the next couple quarters are going to get really interesting in the tech industry.
Yeah, I hope it's interesting and not depressing. We're
Yeah.
going to move on to our next topic, which is Adobe being released for Windows and ARM. You want to talk about that one?
Yes, I would love to talk about this one. This was one that everybody was kind of clamoring for. And this week, if you're in the Creative Cloud, Adobe Creative Cloud, you have gotten your wish partially. And I'm going to explain that. Adobe Premiere is out for the Snapdragon and the Snapdragon Elite Copilot, Copilot Plus PCs. Now, it is not an ARM native app. Let's get that right out of the bat. And it runs under a Windows emulation. Now, and I'm going to kind of categorize that a little bit. What Windows emulation does, for those that don't know, the quick version is for an app that is not native to ARM, it is a translation layer to make an x86 app run on an ARM based CPU. With that being said, I did a couple days ago when it come out, I have the Lenovo Yoga 7X Snapdragon PC that I'm reviewing. I did load it on that device. It did launch. You can edit 1080p video. I would not push it to 4K. You can tell that the performance isn't quite where it should be. They say there's still an ARM app coming later, but there's no date on that. Keep in mind they did promise that there would be something in July for the ARM app. We didn't get the ARM app. We've got this Windows emulated version. So we're kind of expecting the After Effects to be a Windows emulated version as well to be coming soon. So far, we have Illustrator and Photoshop are the native ARM apps for the Adobe Cloud. I can tell you I'm a semi heavy Adobe user. The native ARM apps do run circles around the emulated apps. I'm just going to call it what it is, but Premiere on ARM is a nice stopgap to get your project done. It does wake up the fan on my Snapdragon device, which was the first time that fan has really been woken up. I have to say that, so that kind of surprised me a little bit. It's usable, perfect, no, but it is functional.
Yeah, it's serviceable. To your point, I just did a review of the ThinkPad T14s with the Elite X chip or whatever, and I was using Premiere Pro on there. Um, it actually runs, ironically, better than DaVinci Resolve, which was compiled for ARM. Now DaVinci Resolve, I believe, is in its fourth beta. It's getting better. It's getting there. So I can only imagine what the dedicated ARM one will be later this year. So they basically put something out to kind of hold over creators and things like that who rushed out and bought these ARM powered laptops. It's decent. I expect better to come down the road. That's all my thoughts on that one. It's great. I use the Photoshop and Lightroom that are native ARM, and to your point, they do run significantly smoother than the emulated one. But that's the case with a lot of these emulation things. And I believe Microsoft's still working on its translation layers, so we should get updates for that. That may just improve that, which means Adobe may not have to do much more in order to get that x86 type of performance out of the app soon.
I'll say this,
Mhm.
just so people get something to gauge it by. If and this is strictly opinion, if you edit 4K every day, don't do it. If you're just a casual edit off your cell phone, you're editing the quick TikTok or doing something here like our podcast, you can get it done. So it's not something where you can be 3 or 4 layers deep with special effects and expect quality performance. We're not there. But for the basic everyday user, if you're looking at buying a Snapdragon PC, and I'll say from my personal usage of the Lenovo I have, I would highly recommend it for most people. If you're looking just everyday editing, you can get it done.
Cool. Moving on to our next headline, we have Microsoft basically tying its new performance reviews to its core philosophy, its new core philosophy, or reignited core philosophy of security first. Microsoft's new security core priorities or have been issued to employees in an internal memo from Kathleen Hogan, which basically addresses a two-part security focus for employees, which is basically a mandate broken into common and core elements of accountability when it comes to all of their projects and company company orgs as well. So going forward, managers and executives will have to make use of Microsoft's Connect performance tool. I guess when they're assessing whether or not how an employee is doing, to track and review security deliverables from the various departments and company employees. Quote, our new security core priority reinforces our commitment to security and holds us accountable for building secure products and services. It's now available in the Connect tool for most employees, and we are partnering with GeoHR teams to expand access to all employees globally. The security core priority is not a check the box compliance exercise. It's a way for every employee and manager to commit to and be accountable for prioritizing security, and a way for us to codify your contributions and to recognize you for your impact. We all must act with a security first mindset, speak up, and proactively look for opportunities to ensure security in everything we do. A lot of corporate talk for basically saying, hey, what project are you working on and how have you implemented security into that? And then the second part of that's the core part. The common part is how, if you were judging your, manager or your manager's manager, how have they made your organization more secure? That's basically what Microsoft's saying that is going to be happening going forward for much of the company as they expand. They mentioned GeoHR, so this initiative will be expanded probably outside to international offices or whatnot, and eventually probably offer to its contractors. All the third-party companies that they contract with will probably have some degree of security, accountability, and deliverables they'll need to match as well. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good idea. I'm also curious as to how far and how deep, and how is this a kind of like a football player or any athlete has the end of season review with the coaches and the ownership, or a teacher has the end of year review with her principal or supervisor. You know, is this just PR speak? That crossed my mind. No offense to anybody, but that crossed my mind when I read this. Is this just PR speak, or are they really going to start taking an initiative towards security and making sure that everything everybody works on has that priority? Is that priority just for now because of the whole, the CrowdStrike incident, or is this kind of the new initiative? I hope I hope it's the new initiative. I think, working in the web industry myself and seeing hacks and how things happen, I think if companies were a little more vigilant with this whole security thing, we would see a lot of the breaches and vulnerabilities that we continue to see go down. So I hope Microsoft turns this into something very positive.
Yeah, to your point, Microsoft had this initiative about 20 years ago under Bill Gates as well, and they took it seriously then. They've since, obviously slacked off a lot, and it just depends on how management and kind of the developers are working to address this. Are they willing to break things on their own in order to fix it before it goes out to the public? I think for whatever reason, whatever kind of development cycles they have, whatever QA that used to be in place prior to Windows 8, it feels like all those measures seem to have eroded to some degree, and the quality assurances are somewhat lacking. But it's also just hard because, again, it's the most widely used operating system. A lot of the services are connected to some of the most widely used things in the world, and you can't predict everything. But I think going forward, this is at least a way, and I'm being cynical here, to fire employees if they're serious, quote unquote, about it. This is an added stressor, so to speak, saying like, hey, not only is your project under scrutiny for what it can do, but how secure can it be? And you may or may not reach both qualifications going forward. If they're trying to trim the fat, they can say, hey, in our effort to be more secure, these things didn't meet it, these people didn't meet it, so we had to cut them and let them go. So to your point about being serious, I think they're at least serious about that aspect of it. You're always looking for ways, unfortunately, to trim employees. But I do think that they're getting a lot of flack, and they're getting hauled into Congress more often than they would like to. Brad Smith's having to speak a lot more. He's becoming a household name, and I don't think he's ever wanted to do that. No. So they want to definitely try and pull themselves away from that and get back into the shadows and make their large mergers under radar. We're getting into our next topic, which is, I think, yours,
What we
about
got?
the Surface Pro keyboard. It's a small one, but I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, this is kind of small, but it was something I hoped for when the keyboard was announced. So it was interesting to see. It's only just a small one here, folks. If you're interested in the new keyboard, what is the name of that keyboard off the top
Flex
of?
keyboard.
Yeah, thank you. The Flex keyboard. That is it is the $400 to $500 keyboard that comes with the.
Hold on. Don't scare people off. It's $300 to $400.
Nah, okay.
The
I
keyboard is
thought
because it depends. It depends if you get it with the pen. If you
okay,
get it without the pen, I think it's $350. With the pen, $450, something like that.
okay. My bad, folks. I was looking. I
It's
was looking.
expensive, nonetheless. I could get a Surface Laptop Go, one or two for that amount of money. So it's a whole computer and a keyboard.
Yes, supposedly we've not. I've not laid one. Unfortunately, I've not laid one in my hands. But supposedly, the trackpad is better. It's a little more rigid. Now, it does have that Bluetooth functionality built into it, and that's a big deal. And for those out there with the SQ2, I did not see anything about the SQ1, which was the original Surface Pro X. The
Details
SQ2,
matter.
yeah, the SQ2 does have a firmware update out there to make that keyboard compatible, which is good because for those that don't understand, you can detach the keyboard from the tablet itself. So if you've got like a tablet stand or some kind of dock that your tablet sits in and you want to be able to remove the keyboard, I know for streamers out there, I've already seen a lot of people using the Flex keyboard because they like to have their Surface on a mount, say off the side of their desk where they're monitoring their stream and the keyboard able to just lay on the desk where they can reach it. So nice move, Microsoft. I kind of thought maybe since you had the Snapdragon Surface Pro out, you had kind of forgot about the SQ, the SQL chip. So cool, good to see. Um, if you need that detachable keyboard, feel free. $300, $400. Apple, we hear you. We're like you now.
Yeah, we're gullible sheep apparently. We're gonna move on to our next topic, which is another small one, but may actually end up becoming something big going forward. This is a continuation of the CrowdStrike thing. Delta Airlines CEO, what is his name? Ed Bastian, I believe, came out last week and was, obviously very critical of both Microsoft and CrowdStrike, as it kind of took a little bit. Delta Airlines itself took a little bit longer to get back online. It came out and said, how does something like this happen? This kind of, then this is Bastian's paraphrasing Bastian's wording. This never happens to Apple. Maybe we need to reconsider, putting all our eggs in one basket. And that's not the words you want to hear, as either Microsoft or CrowdStrike. Delta is a big airline. That's a big company. Business to lose potentially, or at least share with Apple or Linux or anything like that. But there are two sides to every story. We get the Microsoft side of the story, which is also very similar to the CrowdStrike side of the story, which they both said, "Hey Delta, you didn't reach out to us. We reached out to you. We could have got you guys back online with, your competitors who were online basically you were, but you ignored our phone calls. You ignored our emails when we asked and got, an employee to actually get on the line with you. They said everything's all good. And after saying everything's all good, I believe Delta went on to cancel about 1,000 flights and about 500 more the week after that. So Delta has basically come out and said that they would like compensation for the week that they lost, the extra week that they lost outside of the CrowdStrike thing. I think it's about 500 million in damages. Perhaps this new letter that was sent to Delta's legal team, because again they sent a letter to Microsoft saying like, hey, we tried to help out. Maybe this letter is a defensive mechanism, saying like, hey, if we're going to go to court, we're at least putting all the facts out there. Microsoft is even going, Microsoft representatives or even legal representatives are going out and saying, even though, quote, this is the co-chair of the legal firm, Mark Cheffo. says, quote, even though Microsoft software had not caused a CrowdStrike incident, Microsoft immediately jumped in and offered to assist Delta at no charge following the July 19th outage. Each day that followed from July 19th to July 23rd, Microsoft employees repeated their offers to help Delta. Each time Delta turned down Microsoft's offer to help, even though Microsoft would not have charged Delta for the assistance. Again, they're just saying, like, we could get you back online. Now, I'll get to you in 1 second. I just want to add that, again, Chaffo also wrote, quote, it is rapidly becoming apparent that Delta likely refused Microsoft's help because the IT systems it was having trouble restoring, its crew tracking and scheduling system, was being serviced by another technology provider, such as IBM or somebody else, because it runs on those provider systems and not Microsoft's Windows or Azure. So, further compounding issues for Delta and their claim that Microsoft and CrowdStrike owe them because they were offline a little longer than everybody else. Microsoft saying not only was your infrastructure old, but you were piecemealing everything. So it could have been a myriad of other people. You can't blame it all on us because you weren't even using our systems that work in conjunction with this. That could have prevented a lot of the extra downtime you had. So what are your thoughts on that?
Somebody's going to be and we talked about it when CrowdStrike originally happened. Somebody's going to have to be the scapegoat in this, and I think that might have been my statement then. I think I understand Microsoft's point of view completely, and I somewhat agree with it, but I'm afraid, that there's a player in here. There's a CrowdStrike Microsoft relationship, and CrowdStrike runs on the Microsoft platform, Microsoft services. So everybody's pointing fingers. Yeah, CrowdStrike had an issue, but hey, Microsoft, could you have prevented the issue? Now, on the other hand, if Microsoft has reached out, as you mentioned, all these times to Delta and Delta refused the assistance, the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
I think Delta has to share some responsibility in the reasoning that they weren't fully online when everybody else was. And if somebody, if a third party was servicing part of their servers and infrastructure, they should have said so and took that into account before blaming Microsoft. Now, I have been a little bit out of place this week. I will say that Delta is the only one that I have personally seen that is still fussing at somebody about the CrowdStrike issue. It seems to have blown over a little bit. Have you seen anybody other than Delta complaining about these issues?
No, and like we mentioned, and again, these are anecdotal. I'm sure we're going to hear from listeners or viewers that, hey, I'm still having issues and whatnot. The CrowdStrike has said that 98 to 99% of its faulty systems are back online. So again, you could be in that 1%. I'm not dissuading that argument, but I think most people are back online. Again, it's not to say that people aren't second guessing Microsoft and CrowdStrike currently. They might be in boardrooms making decisions to Mac OS or Linux, or at least diversify their virtualization platforms and servers and things like that. So, but yeah, for the most part, it seems to have blown over. I think there was a report from CrowdStrike that finally came out explaining exactly what the problem is, and you can go to our website to read that. We're not going to get into that story very much because it doesn't really amount to very much. But they have said that at least it won't happen again because what happened was user error, and the user was CrowdStrike. It isn't a hackable thing. This wasn't a situation where millions were taken down because someone in China decided to be malevolent or anything like that. This is just something that kind of randomly happened and hopefully won't happen again. I think people are trusting that. We're going to get to our next story, which is Microsoft adding 2 new features to Clipchamp. This is another one of your stories, another fun one. What are we talking about?
Yep, I kind of wanted to cover this one because I think our Clipchamp buddy has kind of been forgotten a little bit, and I actually thought, maybe Microsoft had forgotten about it a little bit because it didn't actually get off the market with a whole lot of fanfare, but they have added 2 very cool features to it. One being noise suppression, which helps reduce the background noise in your video, your audio tracks, improving the clarity of your sound. And the other, probably the big one for most people, is the ability to remove the background of any image without needing a green screen. So that, for a lot of people, myself included, is a big deal. I know there's a lot of tools out there. There's NVIDIA Broadcaster, but you have to have an NVIDIA video card in the machine you're using. I think Filmora does this, but you have to purchase Filmora to get this option. So there's not a lot of video software, because this is something that I have researched for my own personal use. There's not a lot of video software out there that can remove or change the background in your video easily. So it's good to see that Microsoft, at least in adding these features, chose two that are very beneficial. So I'm going to have to go back this weekend. I've got a couple videos to edit. I'm going to have to go back this weekend and take a look at Clipchamp and kind of see how these features work for the, you know, here's a good, Snapdragon project for some folks. If you've got some simple videos, need to remove that background, you've got the Snapdragon PC, throw it in Clipchamp. Let us know how it plays out for you.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that they're still working on this. Again, this is a built-in Windows app for the most part, which, again, if you're something, the way that they're designing these, they can go from AMD to Intel to ARM as well. So this is at least one video editor that can be used across the board. I believe you can use it in the cloud on a Mac as well.
Yeah.
I believe the noise removal is currently added. I think that the background removal will be added soon, with probably the next few weeks. I'd say by the end of the month if it isn't here. So for those of you who are excited to go try these out, at least know that going ahead of time. But yeah, good on Microsoft for adding those. We're gonna get to our last topic, which is VR and Microsoft's possible return to it. And this story is, we are kind of light on details because this came in about, I don't know, hour or two before we put together the podcast. So bear with us as we kind of walk through this. But it looks like a report from the ELEC, via Road TOVR, or our buddies over at Windows Central, they also have a report about this as well. Revealed that Microsoft has signed a deal with Samsung that will see the Korean display manufacturer kind of supplying up to hundreds of thousands of new micro OLED displays for next generation mixed reality headset that Microsoft is currently developing. According to the report, an unnamed industry official says Microsoft's new mixed reality headset will focus on experiences like enjoying or watching content such as games and movies rather than metaverse, which is also damning because metaverse was a key phrase 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Who knows? It's been a while now. This implies the device may have a consumer focus, unlike Microsoft's current HoloLens headset, which pivoted from consumers to businesses pretty quickly. I think it even broke its ankles pivoting so hard. With that in mind, what might be in the next generation mixed headset Microsoft looks like, or what it might look like, the patents that they have filed make it look similar to a Apple Vision Pro, with an OLED display and pass-through cameras to simulate augmented reality experiences. Microsoft's own sources say that it will likely run Android instead of Windows, so we're back to a Surface Duo kind of situation. And it will, but it will have power to virtualize Windows applications, sort of like kind of how HoloLens does currently. I believe Google's also working on a headset as well, which I think they're going to be saying they're using Android XR as the platform for that. I don't know how that's going to work in conjunction with this. Maybe both will use the same sort of situation. What are your thoughts on Microsoft abandoning hard, might I say? Because again, they fired basically everybody and blamed all their hardware losses on the HoloLens team, and now sort of kind of creepily developing something that's like the Apple Vision Pro.
I feel bad for the HoloLens folks that were let go. I mean, I just want to say that up front. You knock off a division, and that's what I'm going to call it. You basically knocked off the HoloLens division and got rid of the employees, and then not even 6 months later or so, you're saying, all right, we're going to ease back into it. Now, my gut reaction to that is Microsoft, give it up, because Apple has tried this. Look at the Vision Pro. Look at how unsuccessful, by and large, that Vision Pro has been. Apple has already said that they're pausing innovation on the Vision Pro. And, take the word pausing for whatever you want to call it, so they can work on a cheaper version of that. Now, like we talked about off mic, is that cheaper version $1,500? Is that cheaper version $1,000? Is the cheaper version $500? Then you've got our good folks over at Facebook/Meta. That they're in version 3, about to be in version 4. The Quest 4 is predicted to come anytime now, and they're keeping it in the $500 to $600 price frame to where consumers want it. Now, maybe this isn't a consumer headset. I get that. But my question is, industry showed you they didn't want mass HoloLens development/purchases, or we would still have a HoloLens division and all those employees would still have a job. So, unless they're going to do Xbox VR, which I seriously doubt, I don't see the reason for this. I don't see why Microsoft wants to get into this. You said it was running Android. You brought up a very good point. Kind of goes back to the whole Surface Duo relationship. It's not running Windows. I don't understand why Microsoft is doing this. I mean, we don't have all the info. It just came out, but I don't understand why Microsoft is creeping back into this, unless there's some employee over there that says, hey, Apple got a response. Like you said, we want that response too. That response didn't get Apple very far. So what makes Microsoft feel like they're going to be different?
No, you said everything I was going to say, so I'm going to leave it at that. This feels like a FOMO project, something that was greenlit immediately after Apple got its positive response for the Apple Vision Pro, and no one's checked back in with this team to say, hey, things aren't going well over at Apple Land for this thing. Maybe they will slow down development as they watch the market, and we'll see this thing kind of be slow developed over the next few years. And if, maybe the market does strike, they'll have a device prepared for that HoloLens couldn't have done. But right now, I don't see this ever coming out. So I don't see this being a consumer thing. I don't see Microsoft selling this in the next 3 to 5 years. To your point, it seems like another solution in search of a question. With that being said, we didn't get to the Elon Musk story because it's very convoluted, still late breaking. We may bring it up next week. I may write about exactly what's going on with that. Again, this doesn't really have much to do with Microsoft. So if you're interested in just something that is tech related, let us know. Where can people let you know if they want to talk about things that are non-Microsoft related but tech related?
Sure, David PAJ1978. That is, speaking of Elon, that is over on X/Twitter, and that is also on Threads. And until Mr. Elon throws a childish fit and pulls the plug on the one Twitter server that is left, I will be there.
Yeah, I am also there at Mindhead1 on Twitter/X. If you want to also have some good conversations and talk about things that are non-related to that, you can find me at Kareem Anderson on both Instagram and Threads. I've been hanging out at Threads a lot more. It just seems like a more fun time over there for stuff. When I need to find out news or anything negatively associated with politics, I go over to Twitter. We want to thank you guys for hanging out for just all the tech stuff here on YouTube with us, going to our website and reading our stories there. We can't thank you guys enough for letting us be a part of this tech community that we so much enjoy. We hope you guys have a great weekend. Go touch some grass, enjoy life, and we will be here next weekend with another pod for you.
See you guys next week.